Hi, everyone. This is Terrence Cheng. I'm Chancellor of the Connecticut State Colleges and University System and the host of this podcast, Office Hours. Through candid discussions, Office Hours will explore the intersection of education, leadership, and economic growth. We will hear from state, higher education, business, and industry leaders, and students and faculty who will share valuable perspectives that inspire and empower listeners on their educational and professional journeys as we delve into the key issues impacting higher education across Connecticut. Joining me today is Eastern Connecticut State University's new president, Dr. Karim Ismaili. Dr. Ismaili is the 7th president of Eastern. A first-generation immigrant college student raised by a single mother, he brings nearly 3 decades of experience in higher education to Eastern. Prior to his appointment, he served as executive vice president and provost at Bridgewater State University in Massachusetts. Dr. Ismaili, thanks so much for joining me today. I am so excited to hear about your first few months here at Eastern and your vision for the university. And I hope it's okay if I can call you Karim.
Totally fine with that. If I can call you Terrence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, like I said, I'm so happy that you're here. I'm thrilled that you are in this leadership role. And I think across the system, from board members to constituents that I've spoken to, there's just a really great amount of energy around your arrival. So I was with you for move-in weekend, Eastern's first-year students move-in day. And again, energy, enthusiasm, palpable. So what's the first few weeks, few months been like?
Well, thank you, Terrence. I just want to say that for me, it's an incredible honor and privilege to be the 7th president of Eastern. And what I will say is that, and we experienced this together, you know, the beginning of an academic year is full of excitement and a little bit of trepidation, especially if you're a first-time freshman student. But what I will say is that move-in represents just a new opportunity, an excitement around what the future portends and how students are just thinking about their futures in a completely different way. And all of that energy comes together on move-in day, and certainly as those first classes take place. So for me, that is kind of, I think, emblematic of my reception over the first few weeks of my presidency. Everyone has been welcoming, just as we were welcoming to those students. Everyone has embraced me just as we embraced those students. And the feeling of energy is palpable. And I just, for me, I feel almost overwhelmed by how positive everyone has been. And I just want to harness that energy to serve our mission and to do the best that we can do for our students.
That's really great. And again, you know, I've been to Eastern several times, and I remember that weekend, that day, at one moment, it was just the two of us, and you said, you know, I look around this campus and I'm kind of just in awe of it all, right? Like, I'm the president of Eastern. Look at this incredible campus. Look at the accomplishments and the history and legacy of this institution. Maybe talk a little bit about that, about how that's sinking in for you.
Yeah. I think when I shared that with you, it was a realization of the fact that I was the president. I would say that that is still something that's sinking in. It's not fully there yet. But I will say that it really is a incredible connection that I feel to the history of the institution all the way back to 1889, and to know that I'm in a position where I can work with such an incredible community in a state that values public higher education in the way that it does is for me a feeling of awesomeness or awe. And it's not about me, Karim. It's about really the role of the president and what a presidency can do, and how in this period of time I have the opportunity to do everything I can to bring my experience to bear to provide this community with more opportunities to think about ways that we can feel a deeper sense of connection to the noble mission of higher education, especially public higher education. So I think in that moment, Terrence, I was just sharing with you that it's sort of hitting me And it's almost it's difficult at sometimes to sort of understand the opportunity that I have. But I wake up every day thinking, what an incredible opportunity that I have to be the president here.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's something that, you know, I think most folks don't fully understand that, presidents like yourself, folks in my role, that we're people, and we are going through our own growth journeys as well. And these are moments that you have to reflect on. So let's talk a little bit more about that journey, right? We went through a national search to find the best possible folks that we could to apply for this Eastern presidency, but it was a very competitive pool. I was thrilled to meet you, get to know you more. But I'd love to hear from your perspective. What did you see and feel and understand about Eastern that really made you say, I'm going to take a shot at this? Because you obviously are a very accomplished individual, a scholar, a researcher, someone with decades of experience. But this opportunity must have called out to you in some way. So maybe talk to us a little bit about what you were seeing, if you want.
Yeah. So, Terrence, what I would say is last year I was on my own professional journey to think about a new opportunity, a new challenge for myself. So I had been at Bridgewater State University as the executive vice president and provost for a number of years, and I just thought that this might be the time for me to it's as audacious as it sounds, and I'm well aware of that, to see if I could actually be competitive for the position of president. And when I went through the process, I think there's two things that attracted me to Eastern. First of all, I had been aware of Eastern through its reputation, particularly in terms of its commitment and its mission around the liberal arts. And at a time when I think the value of higher education, public higher education especially, is sort of under threat. For me, it's a bold mission to say that we are here as an institution and we are focused on the liberal arts because we believe that it prepares students for their futures. And so when I learned about the opportunity, I did some investigating and I reached out to my mentors. Terrence, I know you have mentors. We talk to our mentors. One of my mentors is the former president of Bridgewater State University. His name's Dana Molafaria. Dana was the person that hired me at Bridgewater State. And I reached out to him and I called him. I said, so Dana, what do you think about this opportunity? And here's what he said. The first thing he said is, Karim, you must apply for that job. I can see you there. And the reason why he said that was an incredible connection that he had to Eastern. His mentor was former President David Carter, who also was the chancellor of the system. And so for him, he was thinking about how this conversation that he was having with his mentee was reminding him of his own mentor. And so throughout the journey, Dana was supportive of me, sort of guided me, and he's still someone that guides me. And just a few weeks ago, I welcomed him to Eastern. I'm now the president of Eastern. He's now entering the office that he would enter when David Carter was there. So I think you can imagine that. So there's something, I mentioned this at our university meeting at the beginning of the year, there's something written in the stars about Eastern for me. I'll also say that my former president, Fred Clark, who's currently the president there, the person that I supervise with, who is the most incredible leader, also said, Karim, this is a great opportunity for you. And Mary Grant, who is the former president of the Mass College of Liberal Arts, UNC Asheville, also a liberal arts institution, and is currently the president of Mass College of Art and Design, also said to me, Karim, this is a great position for you and for anyone interested in the kind of work that you do. So that's how I applied. And look, Terrence, what I will say is when you put in your application materials, I'm humble enough to know I don't know where it's going to go. And the fact that I was able to go through the process, meet with you, meet with the constituency groups, and then finally get a call from you. And I remember the moment that I got the call from you, it was surreal in the best possible way.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that full circle moment, right? And again, this is such a great insight for listeners that, I mean, you're a president of a university, a great university, and you have mentors. You have people you look up to. You have people whose opinions matter so much to you. And so again, that support never ends, and that willingness to grow never ends. I mean, you've shared that you're a first generation college student, an immigrant. You were raised by a single mother. Maybe talk to us a little bit about that, your kind of how your life and worldviews were shaped by your personal experience, especially in terms of how that led to higher education.
Yeah. So, I was born and raised in London, South London, in the 1970s. So I was born in 1967. I lived through the 1970s. At the end of that decade, we moved to Canada. And what I will say is that my life up to that point was shaped by some challenging things. My mother and father divorced when I was young. I had a younger brother, and I saw how hard she worked just to sort of put food on the table and take care of her two sons. And I grew up very quickly because I was essentially a latchkey kid. I took care of my brother, and we also experienced a fair amount of racial intolerance. Some of it was violent. And this was all because of the wave of immigration that was occurring at that time for many nations in the Commonwealth, individuals who had the right of abode in the UK. But I still have a very, very strong connection to my country of birth and to the United Kingdom and London in particular. But what I will say is that my mom really taught me two things. One was how you have to be respectful of people, and that's the only way that you will be respected. You shouldn't expect to be respected, but if you respect people, that's critical. And the second is independence. Being raised by a single mom, I knew, and she knew, that in order for me and my brother to succeed, we needed to be independent. And she saw higher education, something that she never had in her life, as the only pathway that was open that would help us along our journey. And so, when I think about our students, when I think about the challenges they face, I was there. I know you were there. I know many of our colleagues and people that work in public higher education in the state of Connecticut have been there. And so what I can say is that her view of being respectful, of trying to do everything you can to be self-sufficient and work as hard as you can, those are the values that I share and have shaped who I am, fundamentally.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons, not just your obvious professional accomplishments, but I definitely resonate with your personal experience. And thank you for sharing that as well, right? I mean, again, things that I think are really important for folks to know about the president of Eastern is that you're a real human being who's gone through real things, and that you get it, right? When you talk to students, when you talk to faculty, staff, folks in the community, you really get it. So at Eastern, you are also a tenured professor in the Department of Sociology, Anthropology, Criminology, and Social Work, right?
Yeah.
So maybe talk to us a little bit about, again, what it means to you to be a faculty member while being the president of the university, and maybe a little bit about how your academic journey, or your journey as an academic, I should say, kind of transitioned into higher education and administrative leadership.
So, Terrence, I guess what I would say is that, for me, as I've mentioned, the pathway of higher education, I went to university in Vancouver, Canada, and the vast majority of institutions in Canada are public. And I was very fortunate to go to a exceptional undergraduate institution called Simon Fraser University. For me, going to university was what I would say kind of almost what my mother expected of me. I'm not sure that I felt cut out for university, honestly. And my first semester grades will tell you that. But I persevered. I was working at home, so working to provide funds that would support my home. I worked graveyard shifts at 7-Eleven. I did all sorts of jobs. But along the way, I would say that I just pursued the path. And I never thought that I would ever forget about being a president. I never really understood what I was going to do post graduation, except one thing. I really respected policing and police officers. And so my path was really to be a police officer, the RCMP. That was my goal. We talked about mentors, and I will say that one of the mentors that really changed my life significantly was a professor called Izzat Fattah at Simon Fraser University. When I was graduating, he asked me what I was going to be doing. And I said, I've applied to be a police officer with the RCMP, and I'm waiting for information. At that time, you had to go to Regina, Saskatchewan for the academy. So I was waiting. And he said to me, Karim, I think that you should think about graduate school. And honestly, Terrence, I didn't know what graduate school was. So over the course of a month, he did so much for me to broaden my horizons in ways that I would never have imagined. And at the end of that period of time, I think we're talking into May, I had applied to institutions that I never would have thought that I would even have a chance to get into, like the University of Cambridge, the London School of Economics, the University of Edinburgh. I mean, I got into every school. Now, what I will say is it's not because of me. It's because, and here's why, when I got to the University of Cambridge to pursue my master's degree, I walked in the door, and the first person I met was the director of the criminology master's program. And she said to me, "Who are you?" And I said, "My name's Karim Ismaili. I'm from Canada." And she said, "Oh, you're Dr. Fattah's student." And I knew right then and there that the reason why I got into these places was because, let's translate this to Eastern, and our caring faculty that think about the future of our student body. That's what Dr. Fattah did for me. Got me on a path where I started to understand what being a researcher, being a sort of a nascent scholar might be. I loved reading. I loved research. I loved everything about my field. And so that's what inspired me. And even then, Terrence, I would say that along the journey, I did not know what the end result was going to be, except so I pursued a doctoral degree. And at the end of it, even then, it was like, okay, the next thing is you apply to be a professor. And so here's what I will say. My journey has been one where I have built on what has occurred in the sort of prior, but it's not been particularly intentional until over the last decade, where I've enjoyed administrative work, where I've enjoyed connecting dots and supporting faculty and staff and students. And so, again, it starts with these moments. Sometimes it's luck. Like I was in that class with Dr. Fattah, and it changed my life. And here I am talking to you as a president of an unbelievable institution, completely, in my mind, if you had asked me with a 3.1 GPA, that was my undergraduate GPA, but I worked hard and I did everything that I could to put myself in a position where I could succeed. And that's what we want to do for our students.
I love that. And again, that's the attitude of you can instead of you can't, right? We hear
Yeah.
a lot of things around why we can't do things, but we don't talk enough about why we can. And thank you for pointing out that that's exactly what our faculty and our staff do, right? They will take students and open pages and doors for them and say, "Hey, you ever think about this? Maybe you should try that. Let me help you." And you're a living example of that, and it's awesome. So you've been busy, right? You're on your 100-day listening and learning tour.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share with us a little bit about how that's going, maybe some of the things you've heard, and how you think that's going to inform some of the next steps you would like to take at Eastern.
Yeah. So what I will say is that the one feeling that I have about Eastern that is kind of uniform is the deep feeling of affection that everyone at the institution has for Eastern, whether it's current students, alums of the institution, people that work at the institution, faculty, staff, community members. They see Easton as something that is unique and special and vibrant in terms of Eastern Connecticut just generally. And also, there's a real strong feeling of community. So it's affection and community. These are kind of the pillars that I see. And there's a great pride also in being the designated public liberal arts university of Connecticut. There's great pride there. And as I mentioned earlier, that's why one of the principal reasons I applied for this position, because I too see something very special and unique at Eastern that is a foundation that is rock solid and that we can build from. So my goal over the next period of time, through this entire semester, is to bring people together more formally to talk about four things. Our mission. How do people feel about our mission? I want to sort of learn and listen from the community. Our designation as the Public Liberal Arts University of Connecticut. Our mission class, which is slightly different than mission, because our mission class tells us that we must meet the dual responsibilities of serving students and improving the overall quality of life in the communities around us and throughout Connecticut. So that's the mission class. And then finally, our enduring university culture. We have a steadfast culture that is about fostering a living, learning, and working environment that's welcoming and inclusive. And what I want to learn is how we got there and how can we enhance that more. Terrence, what I will say is that at the end of this journey of listening and learning, which I'm really excited about, I'm going to send a love letter back to the campus about what it is that I've learned, what are the themes that have come up, and I want to share that with the community. And I'm hoping that that will be the springboard for the future during, let's say, over the next decade, around how this university can continue to be the exceptional institution that it is.
That's great. So I know you're early in the process of the Listening and Learning Tour, but as you were coming into this position, studying, learning about the institution, and even from what you've heard now, from again how things are starting to shape up, are there any specific initiatives or things that you could speak of now that maybe you think you would like to see Eastern try to pursue?
Yes. I mean, I think what I would say is that co-creating this with the campus, it seems to me that there has been a real intentional focus on thinking about the public liberal arts mission of the institution. And the way that I'm framing it is it's public liberal arts plus. What's the plus? Well, if you have an undergraduate BSN program, a nursing program, every student that graduates from Eastern from that nursing program has their liberal arts core, where they're learning about being creative and exceptional communicators and are quantitatively literate and are working in teams and are using ethical judgment, all of those kinds of things. And then they're nurses. And so what I will say is that there's a great opportunity to think about the liberal arts foundation that we provide through the liberal arts curriculum, which has recently been revised so excellently by the faculty and staff here. How do we think about that now in terms of really helping students achieve positions where they can improve social mobility very intentionally, whether it's in a field of biology, pharmaceuticals, whether it's in business, whether it's in music or the arts, nursing, health sciences. It seems to me that there's an energy at the university to think through those potential opportunities. The second thing I want to do, I want to raise funds for this university. I believe that there are alumni and donors and individuals that once they've either experienced or experience our community, they will understand that the support that they provide our students is absolutely essential to them continuing along their path to graduation. The other thing I think that we can do at Eastern is really around how we address the demographic challenges that all institutions in our region and in the Northeast particularly are going to face with declining enrollments of traditionally aged students. Again, I believe that Eastern is thinking about that. But for me, I'd like to make sure that we're serving students who traditionally we have underserved. So those are the thoughts that I have. I believe that there's synergy with the campus, but I want to make sure that as we do that, we're thinking about this together.
I couldn't agree with you more. There's so much opportunity there, so much more continued upside. So, last kind of serious question, so to speak. Um, if you were in front of some students and some parents and they were comparing Eastern to other institutions and trying to make a decision, we're about to go into, heavy recruiting season for our
Yeah.
next class. What would you say that they wouldn't know? What's the thing that we all should know about and feel awesome about when it comes to Eastern, whether it's a program or whether it's a student support or
Yeah.
whatever it might be at Eastern that we don't know about? What would you tell folks who are in that decision-making mode?
So let me share with you something that happened around the first week that I was on campus. We had an orientation, a final orientation, and I was there and I made some introductory remarks. Rather than me say this, let me tell you what the students said, because it was a student panel. And here's what the students said, because they're the best ambassadors for any university, the student.
Absolutely.
They
Yep.
talked about how this was a university where faculty and staff cared. They went the extra mile to support them. They talked about the amazing advising and supports that are available at the university. They talked about the world-class faculty and how they were engaged in deep learning around key issues that we're facing in society, whether it's climate change or artificial intelligence, you name it, but also having a focus on history, thinking about global issues, and also thinking about global citizenship. And here's another really important thing that I would share. Two female students shared that they have never at any moment felt unsafe at Eastern. Now, when you put all of that together, the president can talk about that, but you put that together, that's the best marketing tool that you can have. Why? Because it's real.
That's right. And again, what I hear in those student stories and details and voices is that they have a home, right? They
They
feel
have a home.
they have a safe home at Eastern. Right? That's wonderful. Okay, so some rapid fire
Okay.
questions. You have been around the world in your life. How many citizenships do you have?
I hold three. I
Three.
hold,
Okay.
yeah, I hold a citizenship to the United Kingdom, to Canada, and the United States. And I think that's going to be it, Terrence. I think I'm going to stick with
You don't want to throw another one there while in your
three.
spare time. A sports fan. Are you have any favorite sports team?
I have a favorite sports team. My sports team is Liverpool Football Club.
Excellent.
I've supported them for 50 years. And don't call me when they're on TV and don't send me any scores because I may not have caught up with the scores. And then I'm going to send you a bad text back with.
If you weren't in higher education, what field would you be in? What kind of job? What would your dream job be?
I think I've always wanted to be in public service.
I agree.
So whatever job that would be where I'm serving the public or doing something to improve lives. I mean, this is why being the president of an institution like Eastern is my dream job, really. Um,
Mhm.
and I feel like I'm a public servant. We are all public servants, right? We
Right.
serve the state of Connecticut and we serve the United States of America. and we contribute to the world in ways that are unbelievable. So I think my answer to that would be I'm in it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Hey, that makes me very happy. And I'm sure that's going to make everyone at Eastern very happy as well. You've taught a lot, but is there a kind of a special class that you remember, or maybe a class that you wish you could teach that you haven't taught yet?
I think that's a great question. The course that comes to mind was a course that I developed. It was a graduate course, and it was on mass incarceration.
Yeah.
And it was about the phenomenon of mass incarceration, which in the United States, we have a very significant population that is under some kind of social control or criminal justice apparatus. And that was a course where we really thought about the historical patterns and dynamics that have made the United States one of the global leaders in incarceration, which I don't think is something for the country to be proud of. So that was a class. I think in the future, because my pathway has been in higher education leadership, I would love to teach a course on higher education leadership at some point, because there are different styles and different leadership approaches. And I know that there's a big literature there, some of which I've consulted. It's very helpful, but I think that would be fun to do. Not for me, but just to engage with students and to kind of get a sense of where they're at as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Last question. Do you have any quotes that you live by, any quotes or mantras that you live by, or any heroes that you look up to that we could also maybe be inspired by?
I think the quote that I will share with you, and this is pertinent to my role, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember I told you I was a big Liverpool Football Club supporter, right?
Yep.
There was a manager who recently resigned from Liverpool. His name's Jurgen Klopp. And what he said was, it doesn't matter how people feel about you when you start your job or when you start a role. It's what people feel about you when you end it. And I thought, so as much as I am so excited about being in this role, I'm mindful that I am responsible for being at the top of my personal game every day from this point on. Yeah. And so I think, so this is just top of mind, but that's the quote that I actually put in my resignation letter myself when I left Bridgewater State, because I wanted the president to know that I've tried to leave at the top of my game and do everything I can to support that great institution. And I would like to do the same here.
Well, I think that's a beautiful quote, and one that reminds us that, we're here to leave our institutions and our places of work and our careers in better shape than when we arrived, right? And I have no doubt you're going to do that. So, Karim, Dr. Ismaili, President Ismaili, you have to get used to hearing that, right? President Ismaili, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for taking on this role, this honor, this challenge. And I know you're going to be amazing, and we're going to help you everywhere we can to be successful.
Thank you very much, Terrence Chancellor. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Office Hours. I'm Terrence Cheng, Chancellor of the CSU system. Please be sure to subscribe to our podcast and listen into future episodes where we discuss the importance of higher education and why higher education should be a part of Connecticut's growth strategy with state and business leaders and students, administrators, faculty, and staff.